What is going on? Sound Design Hangout. Hope you're doing well. I think you know what we're doing today. Maybe you are even anxiously anticipating it. It's Wavetable. Going to jump into Wavetable now because we started with analog, getting into more of the advanced features of analog, but still explaining everything from the beginning, beginner level up to advanced. And then we did that with sampler, simpler, and then with operator, the last one. And so today we're going to deep dive, get into more of the advanced features for, I guess I would probably say my favorite Ableton native synthesizer, Wavetable. So get your Wavetable, drop down to a MIDI track, make it record enabled, and yeah, let's do a deep dive and talk about some of the more advanced features of Wavetable. So right now, if I play some buttons, it's going to sound absolutely no different than when we started with the default operator, which is basically a synthesizer that is playing a sine wave. And you might say, okay, well, where's the sine wave? Well, the sine wave is right down here. This is a sine wave, okay? And we've got all of these. And so what's unique about Wavetable is you start as always with an oscillator, with the waveform. Right now it's a sine wave. And what we can do is we can move and change our starting waveform with this, and we're going through the wavetable. So this is a square wave, okay? This was our saw wave, yay! And then you're blending between, so this is like a square / saw wave. And this is kind of a mix between a saw wave and a sine wave, but then it's just sine wave. And if you want to make sure I'm talking, I'm saying it correct, or it's very sine wave. Well, you're probably saying, it kind of sounds sine wave. I need to know he's telling the truth. Well, as we know, drop a spectrum. And if it doesn't open up like this, just click the triangle. And there we go, just the fundamental. So it's the sine wave. So take a look. We're going to play a note, and we're going to move up the wavetable. Now we're at that sine saw wave. Now we're going to morph between the sine wave ouch. Let's lower the frequency to cut out some of those highs. So if this was all that Wavetable allowed you to do, it would be pretty cool. But there's all of these other wavetables. So this is a saw, some kind of variation of a saw wave. And when you move through, now keep in mind that when we scroll through, it's going to stay in pitch. Okay, just bring in the filter. We're on a low pass filter, of course, and we are cutting out some of these highs just because these are bright and buzzy waveforms, which is good. We want all of those harmonics, as we are aware, so we can manipulate them to our whims with various techniques, specifically filters. So we want to make sure we have all of that goodness. Now, I'm going to come down here to semitone, and I'm going to push shift down arrow to move it down an octave, just because I want to play it lower. So right now I'm playing a D, and these are the harmonics of this unique waveform that is starting over here on the left, and it is moving here to the right. So when I play a note, all I'm hearing is this section of the wavetable. Now, if I play it and I move, So you're going to notice that it's going to stay here. This D is not going to change. Now, it might go down and up, which is volume. So right down here on the left axis, or the y-axis here, this is the volume in decibels. So if you see these little peaks going up and down, that means their volume is going up and down. Now, if it moves left and right, that's pitch. You don't really want a whole lot of that, otherwise it's going to be like... So take a listen and watch it change as I move through the wavetable. Watch the harmonics change. But notice that it's the main pitch, this D, stays. So why would you want to know about that? Why would you want to move the position? Well, simply, and there's many ways, but simply because you want modulation. So let's come into here, into the matrix. And we've got LFO1 and we've got oscillator position, oscillator 1 position. This is oscillator 1 position right here. In fact, you can even see it moving over here. So let's assign a little bit of an LFO1 to it. We could also assign LFO2, but let's assign LFO1 first. Notice how we get visual feedback, huh? Didn't I tell you that they would be bringing this eventually to an overhauled operator and sampler? But let's go to LFO1 and let's lower the rate. Sounds better. Now, why else would you want to? So for one, you have the ability to modulate the harmonics in a very unique way with Wavetable. But at the same time, maybe you're playing a short sound. So let's come into amplifier envelope, bring it down. So when we play a note, it stays open. Look at the sustain here. Once we bring it down, we're done. So we have shorter sounds. Let's bring out the decay. I'm actually going to go back into the matrix, and I'm going to turn this off for now, turn it back to 0. So why would you, how could you benefit from the wavetable other than that wonderful modulation? Because let's say you're doing more of a shorter staccato sound. By the way, amp, as I said, is volume. This is the volume envelope. And so let's click this, let's play a couple notes. Okay, well, let's move it and see if it sounds better. Okay, I'm getting a little bit deeper here, a little bit of deeper harmonics. So basically, you can just decide where you want it, where it sounds better. So that's another reason why this wavetable comes into handy. But let's make let's do something interesting here. If we were to play a couple notes, I want this to change while it plays. So let's go into LFO2 and let's start assigning LFO2. Maybe let's make it a really fast rate. And let's go into LFO2 and assign it to oscillator 1 position, and let's see what we get. Because we want to get some dynamicism. So every note's going to be the same note, but it's going to change a lot. So let's take a look. Probably too much. So if you wanted it to go crazy and all over the place, and let's take it off sine wave and do random. So it's choosing different places. So it's just giving it, so here, so let's take a listen. Let's use our ears here, guys. So let's go back to LFO2, 0. If you were going to play a bunch of notes, would you rather them sound all predictable like this? Now that sounds nice because it's just a good melody. But now let's listen to how that sounds when we turn it up just a little bit. See, there's more variety. Maybe you want 100%. Maybe you don't want that so much. So that's another reason why you would want to use that. So, very good. Let's get back to, now that you've got some ideas about what we're doing in Wavetable, I want to show you that you don't even have to get all psyched out by all these crazy waveforms. So under basics, we've got all of this. And then we've got all these other ones. But we can get amazing sounds just going back to the default. So remember, back to our sine wave. using the more advanced features. So let's get into the more advanced features. I am going to delete and give us just a fresh wavetable again, just because if that just makes this more straightforward for anyone, I'll do it. So let's start at the beginning and let's show you things you can do with literally just the sine wave, like all the extra features down here with these warping modes, and some of the other things you can get into. Because once you understand just how powerful these other things are and what they do, then you can then go apply it to, you know, more complex stuff, and you really know what's going on. Interesting. So let's go back. Basics, basic shapes. So the basics category, basic shapes, this is what you get on the default. Right now, just a sine wave. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. First thing we'll look at, and again, we are just messing with sine wave, is we've got this panel over here, which will give us a sub and much more. Watch. I'm going to turn this gain all the way down. Turn the sub on, start bringing it up. Just getting a sub, because look, we got D, and we got D. So just add it to taste, and now look at this tone. So even right there, you don't have to do any more. You got great harmonics, you can do your frequency stuff, but just wanted to show you that. Next, we've got these warping modes. Right now it's on none, so we don't have any. But let's try FM. It's going to FM this, just like if you remember from Operator. Check it out. The exact same sound as you would be getting in Operator. Now, if you play with Tune, that's going to do fine tuning, and it's going to basically affect the pitch, so we're not really going to want that, so take a listen. Watch how this is going to go left and right when I turn up Tune. So if you want, so basically Tune, you can get like bell sounds, which is like something you can get with like FM, which is like inharmonic stuff. So you can get like interesting bell resonant type sounds, but I keep it at 0 and I just play with this amount till I get a pleasing sound. Take the, let's play it an octave below. Come into, click this amount, go into matrix, see now we've got oscillator 1 amount. Let's add a little bit of LFO1. Now we got some of this LFO. See how these are moving up and down? Everything is just modulating harmonics in their own unique way. Wonderful. So like, yeah, if you take this amount down to 0, it's just the sine wave. So what's next? Classic. Let's see what classic does. Oh, look, PW, that means pulse width. You guys all know I like my pulse width. So now this is allowing you to actually do pulse width, something you could only do with a square wave, but now is allowing you to do, because Wavetable is that awesome. Smash some like if you love Wavetable and you love Ableton. Let's go. Let's get some pulse wave going on. Whoop. Like, listen to how great that is. You just turn up the tiniest bit, and look down here. Look, it will update for you. Oh, someone said, hey, modulate that. Modulate that, young man. Let's get it. Whoop. Too fast. And if that's too bright for you, just take the frequency down. Then you can modulate that as well. Let's put some sub on. Let's get our sub back in there. Take the tone down for now and take the gain down as well. Let's bring it up. Get some of that sub going on in there. Let's give it a little bit of tone. It's too bright. Let's take this frequency down a little bit. Let's go give it a filter drive. It's way too bright and nasally, and I don't want to take the frequency down anymore. So what's a really good thing to do is add a chorus, because it sort of like smears kind of the higher end harmonics, and it sounds really damn good. I love chorus. Listen, and then I'll drop chorus. Yeah! We love the chorus. Lower the dry wet a little bit. I almost like don't even want to lose this sound. But I want to move on to show you the other ones, but I don't want to lose this sound. So let's click this and let's call it Good Sine Pulse with, now it's a preset. Let's move on. Okay, well, before we move on, we should probably see what Synth does over here. I'm gonna lower this frequency, it's hurting my ears. Let's see what Synth does. And of course, Synth, go to Matrix, and I didn't know we actually put some on the Synth. In any event, yeah, very powerful. Very powerful. Let's bring them back to 0. Bring these back to 0. Let's go to modern. Warp and fold. Now again, let me remind you, I'm going to turn this filter drive off. Look at the harmonics. Wait, what is on? What is on? Oh, this sub. I'm going to turn the sub off for now because it's giving... I just want to be like, listen, just the saw wave. Now let's add some warp. Immediately. Now that's going to be a different sound than what we got before. Maybe that's a sound that you want. Does it sound better when I crank this up or not? Find out what you like. I like it here. So right there, you don't have to do anything. Maybe you just want to give a little bit of modulation. Now, by the way, now when you see how it says oscillator 1 warp right here, and it's got the oscillator 1 warp, you might not see it. If for some reason you don't see it because maybe you clicked off the filter frequency and it didn't add it, just click the thing and it'll show up if it's not showing up. So let's see what a little bit of LFO movement sounds with it. It's too fast. And again, this is the amount. So if we went all the way up, it would be crazy, right? So we don't need a lot. We don't really need a lot. Now, let's hear... actually, I'm going to turn the LFO off just so we can just hear what this modern warp mode does. So let's listen to this here. Now, let's move fold, and let's see what it looks like down here, and see what it looks like up here. So why would we use some of this stuff, guys? Well, it's about what it does to our sound. So right now I'm hearing this and I'm like, oh, I want some extra bright stuff going on so I can then sculpt it more with the filter frequency. So let's move fold and let's get that then. Okay, so here immediately we did that. We got it so much brighter. So that's why you would want to tweak these things to be like, oh, I'm missing this. Sometimes you'll find you got great harmonics, but the fundamental is all of a sudden lower. And then you can move some things to beef it up. And that's also why I think they have this sub down here as well. Because a lot of times you'll find when you're clicking through a lot of these ones, they'll sound good, but it'll sound like they're like missing bass. Or some will sound good, but it'll sound like it's missing highs. So you'll come into here and you'll tweak it to get the sounds that you want. But never forget that this amplifier envelope is very important, because right now if I play notes, it's going to stay open, right? So you could do all this stuff in the world, but if you didn't know that your amplifier envelope, which is your volume envelope, is all the way down like this, it doesn't matter what you do, because if you hold down a note, you're not going to get any more than 94 milliseconds. Check it. You're like, hey, I'm making all these changes over here, and all I get is this awful like poop doomp sound. This mental. It's like, well, okay, well, because we're only allowed to get 94 milliseconds of sound. So we got to bring up the sustain, right? And if you're playing notes and you're like, well, my sustain is up, it's still sounding doopy loopy. Release. Wonderful, wonderful. So let's start from scratch again. By the way, it's always good to start from scratch because it reinforces stuff and whatnot. So again, what do we got? We've got our wonderful sine wave again. So we learned all of these warping modes. And what do? Essentially, they change the waveform. They give us those wonderful harmonics. And it's just another way that you can sculpt and modulate your sound in Wavetable. Obviously, we can go to different Wavetable. So now we got this unique sound. You know, wow, I actually kind of want to know what that sounds like pitched down an octave. Ugh, too much. More. Oh, it won't even let me go down anymore. Someone says, oh no, he's been stumped. We knew it would happen one of these days. No, it's all right. Just go to plugins, or not plugins, sorry. Go to MIDI effects, go to pitch, knock it down. Wow. That sounds interesting and familiar. What the hell is that? Maybe someone, I don't know. Sounds good, innit? So let's go back to, I really like the way that sounded, but I'm gonna forget where it is because I can rediscover it again. I love Wavetable. I hope you do too. So again, let's get back to our sine. Nah, turn off sub. Let's get back to our sine. Okay. Now we're playing lower because we've got this semitone here. We'll start there. So typically after you find your waveform, whether you're using any of these wonderful warp modes or whatever they're called, whether you found your perfect thing in here and you like your sound, you like your modulations if you have any. And sometimes this can happen to you, folks. You might say, well, I need a little bit more width. I need a little bit more size. I need a little bit more thickness. That's when you would come into this unison thing over here. So I'm actually I might maybe go up to more of a saw or a square. I want to start with sine because that's kind of the theme I've been doing. And I bet you we get great sounds utilizing these unison modes only with a sine. Let's see if I'm correct. I could be wrong. I haven't done this. Let's go. It's just a sine. Let's turn it on. Let's go with classic. Now let's see if we get any harmonics here. Now it's going up and down, so we're getting like a volume modulation, which sounds nice. Let's turn up these voices. So right now it's just playing with what we have, but let's give us some harmonics here and let's see how it changes. So let's go to Wavetable. It's kind of like that oscillator detune. Wonderful. Let's go back to saw wave. So that was classic. Let's take a look at shimmer. See if shimmer does anything to our saw wave, and or sine wave, and if it doesn't, we'll put on some harmonics. Because a lot of these things are really only going to affect harmonics. Not all of them are meant to be, do things to just the saw wave. Typically, you need to have harmonics in order to get them. So let's play this here. That's interesting. Let's see what it sounds like when we give it some harmonics. It's too fast. Let's put it down to 4. Let's lower the amount. A lot of times just a little bit. A little dab will do ya. And of course, you could modulate that position. So let's go to the matrix. Let's go to oscillator 1 position. Let's give it a little bit of LFO 2. No, let's give it LFO 1. We want slower. LFO 1. Let's take this down. Smooth the position. Pretty cool. So that's shimmer. Not really the biggest fan of shimmer. Certain things sound better on certain things. That's why they give you all of these, so you can just play around with it. Let's go to noise. I have a feeling this will be interesting because anytime you got noise, you're like adding harmonics. So let's see if it'll do something to our sine wave, and then we'll experiment with the other ones. I'm gonna go into the matrix and turn this off for now. Okay. Now let's add some of the noise. Interesting. Let's give it a little bit of harmonics here. Now it sounds like there's a lot going on. It almost sounds like there's some reverb. Oh, well, I was like, it sounds like there might even be some chorus. Okay. So now let's try phase sync. A little bit sounds a lot better. You know what I mean? It's like too intense. That sounds really nice. Oh, let's go to Galactica. Someone said, go to Galactica! Let's get that sub back in. Without? With. Oh! It's too much. It's too much. Let's just... Actually, I would rather just play this down a whole octave. Sounds like it's like breathing fire. So anyways, yeah, random note will probably be interesting. Let me bring this up. Take some of the frequencies, high frequencies out. See if we can modulate the amount. Unison amount, let's see. I think it's doing it, but I don't think it's going to show it doing like this. Although I think that right there. Okay, what else do you guys need to know? Well, if you want some glide, you can turn glide on. But in order for glide to be on, you probably have to have it on mono. Oh, and then you can add another filter. I would put it on parallel. Or is it split? Let's get notch. I'm going to turn it off 12 because I want it fatter. And I need to really get this drive going. I don't think it's split. I think it's parallel. I don't know. Now we need to get some movement. So let's go into filter to frequency and give it some movement. Let's lower that amount. Give it some chorus. That was awesome. I can't believe it was only 30 minutes, probably even shorter for you guys, and that was amazing. I honestly think we should just leave it there. So you got two filters, if you didn't know that, and you can actually also add a second oscillator in here if you want, but like honestly, it's almost overkill, but you can do that. So that's pretty cool. We can still come into here and use some of these. Right? So you can get that sync and then throw some of this in there. Put it back on poly. Listen how punchy that is, man. That's so amazing. So I really hope you enjoyed that. Hope you loved that. If you learned anything today, I actually learned nothing today, so I will not smash the like because I knew all of that, every single little last bit of it. I don't know what we're going to do for the next one. I might maybe do like video game sounds, or I might maybe play around with something I hardly ever do, which is very, very something that, especially if you're making like more electronic music, it's clip automation, right? Whether it's automation in the timeline view or it's automation within the clip view, clip automation, and like drawing in crazy, so it's like you got your MIDI notes in here, but then, you've got, the automation, which is something I never really do. And I feel like the more I do it, the more I'll just have like creative ideas to, do all that stuff. So thank you. Hope you enjoyed that. I will be back soon. Hope you've been enjoying these deep dives where we focus on the more advanced features, let's say, but still we go over the basics and we work up to the more advanced concepts. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a good day.